Welcome to the FiveStack. We brought a ringer. We brought a ringer, Ellie Leonard, the ringer from Blue Amp Media, and of course, the panicked writer here on
Thank
Substack,
you.
Ellie Leonard. Fuck, thank you. Sent you a note at the last minute. I'm like, hey, Zev is missing in action. I think he went to get dog food and got lost, or I think he might have actually gone for a manicure and forgot about me. So it all kind of worked out. So we're here, Zev Shalev, narrative.org, one of my very dear friends and the host of narrative.org, who is an incredible investigative reporter. We've got Ellie Leonard, who is the Epstein files magician. She is our Sherpa. She tells the truth, even if it doesn't align with certain perspectives, which is why I love talking to Ellie. Thanks for being here. You guys really
Yeah.
appreciate it. We have some serious news to get to around Howard Lutnick and Zorro Ranch. So this is going to be a very different five stack. It's going to be like a 2.5, maybe a 3 stack. But what we're going to do is break down some really interesting information. We're going to take a break from, counting down some stories because these are the biggest stories, and Howard Lutnick is swimming in it. And just so we kind of, all understand what's at stake here, it's America. That's a really important aspect to this, is that you are currently in the United States of America, Ellie, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes,
being
I
held
am.
hostage by a cabal of fucking pedophiles.
No,
If I'm not mistaken.
so annoying. Like
I know it sounds harsh, right? But it's
it's
true.
pretty harsh. Yeah, they're just yeah, every time I see that thing that says there are 10 co-conspirators, I want to be like, no, there's not. There's like
Yeah.
100. There are so
But there's
many
also so
people.
many. Yeah, sorry. There's also so
No,
many
no.
crimes.
There's so many crimes and like break it like you were creating the graph of like these are financial crimes and these are sex crimes and these are where they connect and here's the royals and here's the like it's so every time you think you're making headway, it's just they create a whole new wing of this investigation of you're like, oh, there's another crime I wasn't thinking about. And yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, no, and it's like the whole idea about flooding the zone, and I think strategically it kind of sometimes works out for the Trump regime. But
Yeah.
listen, we're getting to the point here where, not only, and I had this conversation with someone the other day, it's statistically impossible to imagine that Donald Trump wasn't in the know, wasn't involved, wasn't actively involved in the Trump regime,
Right.
or in the Epstein files. It's statistically impossible over a 40-year period for over a million mentions from hundreds of different eyewitnesses that have
Mhm.
spoken to the FBI, that have talked to different people involved, whether at Palm Beach. We're now at that on the precipice. And I think that this is really important, respectfully, to start talking about this in terms of not just the victims getting transparency, but also it's very important that we understand the nostalgia here and the origin around why this exists, which is why Zeb is here talking about some of the money. But, some people have really sort of outed themselves in these Epstein files that have gone on the record to say they've never had anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I only went next door once. My wife was disgusted by him. Let's start with
So
Howard fucking Lutnick, because you uncovered a couple of
fun.
things today. I watched an incredible Substack Live with Zev and Lev today. The Zev Lev show. We got to do something with that. That really kind of uncovered, Howard Lutnick's fucking ongoing lie that he had nothing to do, Ellie, with Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. It couldn't be fucking farther from the truth.
Well, this like backing up to just give a little backstory. So I was walking downtown in New York. I do my little investigative walkarounds. I go see the places that we're writing about. I was trying to find Epstein's house. I was trying to find the apartment complex, and I took a picture of his house. Super creepy, bad vibes. He's got the sailor's knot doorknob, which is felt so symbolic. Um, and then I think I posted it to Substack, and somebody goes, "Turn around, go Google the house next door." And I Google the house next door, and it's literally shares a wall, and it's Lutnick's house. You research the history. He bought the house the same time that I believe the title transferred over for Jeffrey Epstein's house. He bought it from a trust. It's called the Comet Trust. The Comet Trust was run by Jeffrey Epstein. So he got the house from Jeffrey Epstein. And there's not a real big record of sale. There's rumors that he paid $10. There's that you could look at it that they just paid the documents to sign the title. But there's no real bill of sale that the house sold for anything. But then it was evaluated at a certain price afterwards so that he could make money off that way, whatever. he claims, being his neighbor from 1998 through, he still owns the house now, that he only ever went to the house one time, didn't know that anything was going on, went in there, saw a massage table, was like, ooh, that's bad. I'm so grossed out. I'm never coming here again. And then, dun da da da, we get the Epstein files. In the Epstein files, guess what? He's going to lunch on the island, and you have the exact date. You have his wife going, I'm on the boat on my way there. Which dock do we use? And he's like, oh, he goes in the hearings and he goes, oh, that's right. I did go to the island, forgot. and he goes, but you know what? I went there.
Actually, you're right. I remember the hearing. I did. With
Right.
the nannies, but I made sure I
Yeah.
collected all the nannies. We'll get to
Well,
that
and
in just a second.
there's just all these weird emails about, like, he's like, I'm bringing my friends. He brought this other couple named Michael Lehrman, and his wife Marcy, and their 4 kids. It's like, and he's listing off the kids and the ages coming to Epstein's Island. He's like, this is all the kids I'm bringing. This is all their ages, which is, even if it's innocent, very creepy sounding. But then you find this other email, and I found it. So if it hits the internet, I found it first. But I found this email today, little tiny, when I was searching up Lutnick, and it's from Richard Kahn, who I believe is his accountant, Epstein's accountant, saying, I have the resume for Lutnick's nanny. When do you want to meet her? Peter's going to get in contact with you. I believe Peter is probably Peter Mandelson. When do you want to talk? And so Epstein is meeting with Lutnick's nanny. Epstein doesn't have children. Epstein doesn't need a nanny. Epstein is not around his brother's children. Epstein's not around children. And yet he's having a one-on-one meeting with Lutnick's nanny. So, and that is where we are today.
That was an incredible email. You sent it to me. It kind of leans into what some of the work that Zev has been doing, specifically over at narrative.org, too. And Zev, I don't know if you get a chance to see that email to Richard Kahn, where he's like, here's the nanny's CV for Lutnick. Like,
Yeah, actually,
here's their
I just I'm looking
resume.
at it now, and I think I can actually try pull it up here. So let me see if I can pull it up for you guys. And so
Okay.
Ellie's fine today. I think it'll show up. There it is.
There
Is
it
that
is.
upside
Yeah.
down? Can you read
No,
it or is
it's
that
okay.
upside
It's
down? No,
good.
that's okay.
No, it's good.
Attached is the
Um,
resume of Lutnick nanny trying to arrange a time to meet Peter. Yeah, there you go.
So this is
There you go.
interesting because the terms they use, nannies, all these things are just they could mean anything. It could, but it certainly is an
Right.
interview with somebody. And look, the thing is, we've been discovering about the Commerce Secretary is that he's alleged to be a full-on criminal, and he's been a full-on criminal for a long period of time. There's a 302 that was published by the um, by the FBI in the latest Epstein files that is just riddled with accusations of crime, of fraud, of money laundering, of connections to the Russian mafia. It just seems endless. And then, of course, there's the big
It
connection to
effectively
Epstein.
fingers Lutnick as the centrifuge for all of that money laundering with the Russians, right? In
Yeah,
that
actually
FBI
calls him
302?
the instructor of all these things, which
Yeah.
is a term of art, but it's also it's kind of insane when you think he's the Commerce Secretary, when his connections have been known to the FBI for a very long time. And this guy or a woman who was the whistleblower is a very experienced securities person. This is not someone who just is a fly-by-night person, 30 years in the business, was on Cantor's desk for many, many years. And he's making this was in 2021, was making very serious allegations against Lutnick, who still became the Commerce Secretary. And then when he was being vetted for the job, the FBI's vetting department was looking into information about all these crimes, and they were just brushed away. Basically, in one instance, they were only told a little bit of information. In the other instance, they were told no information. And so you've got a situation where the FBI is trying to vet people for the safety around the president. Can this person be in the proximity of the president? And the return notes from other parts of the FBI was there's no threat. When in reality, there's a lot of threat, according to these 302s, where this person under interview with the police is saying exactly all the crimes that Jeffrey Epstein committed. And it's not just them, and I'll pull it up for you in a second. It's just there's a lot of information here about how many times he shows up in the various police records that they searched, and it's a lot. So there's a lot that needs to be answered here by Epstein, by Lutnick, and by the president as to why this guy, who's the Commerce Secretary, was not vetted properly, whether he is still under investigation or not, and whether he's ever going to answer for these crimes.
Pales in comparison to not vetting the actual fucking president of the United States, though. Like, I mean,
Well,
that's, I sit here and I listen to the conversation about Lutnick, and they're like, hey, well, we didn't really get it right with Lutnick. He was totally compromised. I'm like, have you seen the fucking guy in the
yeah.
Oval Office? That's the most compromised man in the country, maybe the most compromised man in the world, going back to Howard Lutnick in this nanny scheme. So, should we be kind of focusing on Nanny Gate at the same time? Because listen, like Ellie, we're at that point where code words for young girls and women who were horse
Right.
traded between
Right.
Epstein, perpetrators. And I want to get into that in a little bit because it leans into the Pizzagate bullshit. But having said all that, I want to focus on the nanny stuff. Are we at a point where we need to be a little more reflective and digging into as citizen led reporters in the resistance, whether it's you, myself, Lev, Zev, everybody involved in the wolf pack, if you will. Should we be talking a little bit more about this nanny scheme?
I mean, I think nanny would be a really lame code word because like most nannies in New York City are young women. So, I mean, I would assume, I just assume it is what it is. Lutnick probably brought nannies who were very young, probably foreign, and Epstein loved young foreign girls and wanted to invite them back. This was not that long after they had gone to the island. So he would have been there with, I believe, more than one nanny. And then he was inviting them back to his house.
So that's what you're saying is really important there. So in 2013, he had just been to the island, and then after meeting, Epstein met the nanny on the trip in the island. Then he brings her in for an interview.
Yeah. So he met him like a couple days before Christmas 2012, and this is in October 2013. So this is 10 months later. So I don't know if we're gonna find something that happened in between, but I don't know what Epstein would need a nanny for. Like, why would he be interviewing a nanny?
You mean a childless billionaire that horse traded children for sex probably doesn't need a nanny? Is that what you're saying?
Just saying.
And he's got other people there.
As someone who has, and fortunate enough in my previous life as a radio host to have a nanny, we hired a nanny that had, papers, and she was a nurse, and we paid for everything for her to come over, and there was never any sort of sexual connotation to it. There was never.
But it is common. It is common.
Well, I know it's
that stuff a lot.
Completely common. And I have friends that have hired nannies based on how they look, based on where they're from, based on what they pay them. And when I say friends, I mean I have acquaintances. But, I want to dig into that just a little bit because, the code word nanny is, for a guy like Lutnick, a great fucking hiding spot, right? As are some of the words that I've seen used, whether it's cream cheese, whether it's beef jerky, there's a bunch of stuff in these files.
Yeah. Burgers. Gotta be home. The burgers are getting delivered. Alert! The burgers. Like, that was an email, and it's like nobody's that excited about burgers being delivered. Like, this is.
I think we also have to be careful with those code words. I think there's a lot of allegations of what they mean, and that's
what I'm trying to suss out. Listen, in no way, on no way, shape, or form am I leaning into Pizzagate, right? Like that would be the fucking dumbest thing I can do on any one of these.
It's dangerous territory.
But you can see, according to the keywords, Ellie, in some of the euphemisms or code words, how that would be leaked to a certain community for a QAnon drop. Ta-da.
Well,
can you? Yeah, go ahead.
If you just take just the Bannon emails, he knew as of 2018 that he was under surveillance. So if you take any other emails that probably occurred in 2018, you'll start to see coded language or, a lot of like, this isn't for email. We're going to talk on the phone or we're going to talk in person. Like, you see a lot of stuff being veered away from the conversation in the emails. So my guess is if there is some kind of code happening, it's much, much later. We don't have a lot of really, really early emails just because of when the internet was created. But as you go along, he knew very well that he was under surveillance, and he got very, very careful with how he worded things.
It's so interesting. I've got to ask you some questions about Fergie as well. But the
Uh-huh.
thing that really
Oh, your
stands out to
Fergie
me as
reporting.
well.
Ellie Leonard has done an incredible job reporting on Andrew Mountbatten, Andy Mountbatten. Let's just call him Andy. And Fergie's relationship. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's
Seb,
okay.
go ahead.
Go for it.
No. It's just if anybody gets a chance to go to the Panic Writer and have a look at the latest Fergie emails between
Yeah.
Epstein, to your point, Zeb,
And I'm not done. I've got 2 more iterations, I believe, to come out. So like she wrote a lot of emails.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot just leaning into some of what you're talking right now
Mhm.
about nannies and all of that. There's some really interesting audio and video tapes that are in the Epstein files that we'll play some of them later on. I think at 7 p.m. I've done a lot of checking them out and making sure that they're the real thing and transcribing and vetting them out to some people over the last few days. And um, it's uh, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot in there. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that's going to show you what happened in the initial investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. But there's one really panicked conversation with Jeffrey Epstein on tape, where he's in South Africa freaking out about potential um, uh, police action against him and describing it to somebody else on the phone about what he's doing to protect himself. That is quite remarkable. And we'll play you some of that tonight at 7 p.m. because I think it's very, very instructive to understand the mindset he was in. There was a lot of time, as you point out, he told Bannon that he thought he was being followed. In fact, he thought that a lot, that there was a lot of people following him, and he gets pretty paranoid and neurotic about some things
Yeah.
in these audio and videos tapes as he's realizing that people are investigating him or whatever. And and it's interesting as well to listen to the testimony in that initial grand jury, um, how tepid some of it all is. I mean, it's so interesting that he didn't actually seem to, other than one person, there's no actual sexual intercourse with anybody. There's
Mhm.
interactions, but it's all very, it's paid for sure, and it's illegal and all these things. But he doesn't, it's just very weird. It's not
Mhm.
exactly what you think it is. It's not some crazy violent rape. It just isn't that, except in one instance, and even in that instance, he apologized and said, he gave the woman $1,000 and nothing had really happened. It was just the record is very interesting, and this is from the not to excuse anything he did. No, I'm not suggesting that for a second, but I do think that there is a his role was more to facilitate the trafficking for other people. I don't think he himself was. I don't know if Ellie, if your research shows the same. He himself wasn't like a predator in that way
Like
of being
Jeffrey
a.
Epstein?
Yeah,
I mean, I think it depended. I think there were periods of time in his life when he was more virile. I don't know what the word is. Like he was more able to do
horny.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I do know that there
capable,
were,
physically capable.
I
Yeah.
guess, like I do know that there were girls that he, pushed himself on that didn't want it. I know that there were girls, he did the thing where you'd massage him and he'd like flip over and expect things. I think he was just very lewd and he was just I don't know, like I think
yeah.
of
I'm
it.
thinking about 2005 in particular, that initial investigation.
Yeah.
When I read it all seems so like it's weird. These girls would come over. They'd at least get paid $300. They'd sort of have to perform massage topless, but it wasn't. It certainly evolved over time. I mean, certainly by the
Yeah.
time you get to later on, I think it became much more violent and much more extreme,
Almost like
maybe. But
he completely
Yeah.
understood the importance of having these young girls and women in situations as opposed to you're talking about, if I'm not mistaken, you're talking about the strategy behind it becoming more important to him than the passion or the perversion behind this. Is that correct?
I wish I understood his personality more because like, was this just operational for him? Is what guess what I'm saying? Was it just a
Yeah.
thing that he
You know
was
what?
doing
I
because he
It's
think
needed the
interesting because I
blackmail?
think that's borne out by the Kimball Musk tweets and emails, right?
Mhm.
Like, the idea that Jeffrey Epstein was sexually fluid is well established. And,
Mhm.
to be sexually fluid, and you and I said this in a podcast recently in a Substack Live, is that, that's commitment to your craft. When you're willing to have a homosexual relationship with someone, if you're not a homosexual man, only to put the world's richest brother at at a disadvantage for your own personal needs, right? And
Mhm.
then of course we hear the stories about him and Leslie Wexner, but I'd be interested to get Ellie's perspective on this because the Kimball Musk stuff like shocked me as much as it didn't, because you also go back in the history of Jeffrey Epstein's timeline. He was very sexually fluid depending on the opportunity
Yeah.
that presented itself,
Yeah, I
right?
think he just went through, like, seasons of life, but I think he had a weird yeah, but definitely had a very weird dynamic with Ghislaine Maxwell, where I think Ghislaine Maxwell sometimes was more aggressive than he was, and she encouraged him, and then, vice versa, and, like, she was such an active player. She was not just, like, assistant number 1. She was a very active player in these rapes, and, I think, you know, obviously obsessed with Epstein, that was her thing, and they had weird fantasy things they did together that were really gross, and so I think that there
Like
was a
what?
lot of I'm not describing. I am not describing this bad
Not
stuff.
not
Nope,
his crab
don't
stuff?
need to.
Like
That
he was a crab?
I know, I don't need to go there, but I just the thing is, like, I in this deposition, and I take all depositions very seriously from these accusers, but, like, I just think about these girls who were in, like, 2001 or, like, 1998, and they're giving a deposition or they're writing in a journal, and it's like they didn't know this guy. Nobody knew about this guy. Nobody cared about this case, and yet here they are giving a deposition because it meant that much to them. Like,
Mm.
I take that very, very closely to heart that
Well,
those girls.
especially in a time when that was the only avenue that you had. There was no
Right.
internet. There was no social media at that
And
time. I
also,
mean, there
nobody
was, but
believed girls. Like, I mean, they
yeah.
don't believe them now, but they didn't believe them even more back then. And so it's like they still came forward, and that's very, that gives everything so much credibility, that in a time when no one believed girls and there was nobody to help them and they didn't think anything could happen from it, they still came forward and said something because they were that scared or that upset. I take that very much to heart. And so, like, I've read through a lot of these, and, like, he goes through different weird waves of life. And then you also have to, like, take some of these stories with a grain of salt, because some of the girls never recognized it as abuse. Some of it thought that he loved them and he was, like, providing, like, they didn't recognize they were being groomed. They were just like, oh, he pays for my clothing, and, like, he wants me to go to dental school. And you're just like, yeah, but you're 16 and he's also asking you to do things for him. Like, this is always abuse. Like, does not matter if
Mhm.
he hands you $1 million, this is always abuse. And so I think people, like, start to read that stuff and they go, oh, not all the girls were upset. Not all the girls were scared. Like, some of them are really happy. And it's like, nope, big picture, they were all being abused. So I think he went through waves with his ability and with his needs. I think, if he did kill himself in jail, my guess is it had a lot to do with personal needs. I don't know if he did kill himself, but, like, he had a very long reputation of needing to be satisfied 3 times a day. And so I don't know. I don't know. It was very messy. Like, the entire thing was very messy, but always changing.
Mm.
I mean, it's so. What is the crime? The crime is the trafficking. The crime is raping. Those are the two things that
Hmm.
are the crimes. I mean, I don't think it's a crime to give somebody a education or to give someone
Right.
any gifts. And I think that's
No, I think the
the
crime is lording that education over
Yeah,
somebody and
for you
getting
get
well, that
something.
is
something.
that is trafficking. That is the equivalent
Wow.
of trafficking as well. He's offering financial reward for doing sexual favors, I think. Can I show you this thing about Wexner? Sorry, about
Mhm.
Lutnick that I think is just
Yeah.
I'll just show you how to do
Dude,
this.
I gotta tell you, when I run the FiveStack, it goes so much smoother than when you run the FiveStack.
We're
That's all
so
I know.
fun.
I love it. You can do this all the time.
I'll
I'm
do it
happy for
every
you
day. I'll do it every
to
day,
do
kid.
it all the time. Let me just figure out, because none of the technology's at my fingertips.
Yeah.
Is
No,
the
no.
thing, right?
Are you talking about that graph and that map that you did, which
I'm
is
going to
just
show that
taking the
as
internet by
well.
storm, which is incredible.
It's
And we're
really
going to
cool.
get to Zorro Ranch, and there's big action at Zorro Ranch in New Mexico today.
You know what?
But go. Sorry, go ahead, Al.
No, I was going to say it could be bigger action if Michael Wolff would donate $800,000 of GoFundMe money.
Yeah.
I'm just
Right?
saying.
Right. We'll get to that
I'm
in
Oh
just
my
just a
saying.
second.
gosh.
Be like a
The
third
two
more money.
Michaels. The two Michaels. We need your help today. We need
Need
Michael
some
Wolf's
money.
ill-gotten gains, and we need Michael Cohen's fucking
Like it's
effort
nothing.
to fucking tell
Yeah.
the truth. What do you have here for us, Zev?
Well, I just
Talk
want to.
about
This
this.
is really interesting to me. This is about Lutnick again, and it's interesting that as they got the first report, phone tip from this insider, this whistleblower, they did a search on Lutnick in the police and FBI systems, and in it says here a divs query, which I think a divs. I'm not exactly sure what div stands for, but it's one of those things, one of those inquiry systems databases that they have
Anagrams?
at the data. They have several databases that they can search through criminal history, and it says here divs query for Howard Lutnick revealed 34 results, including 3 SARs, which are suspicious activity reports, in addition to the aforementioned case files. And then there's another system, Sentinel, and another one called Guardian, and they did queries into those databases, and they revealed a single results for case number, whatever it is there, concerning a complaint of illegal billing practices. And then the second one is the one where a div query for revealing an additional derogatory information. And then it says, note, queries were not conducted on Epstein and Maxwell due to the sensitive nature of the case, which was, oh, that's really interesting. And then it says
Yeah,
enclosed
that means
information
he's a
was collected
CIA
and
fucking
disseminated.
informant. That's what he is, right? I mean, it's weird because, every time that someone has this conversation where they try to pin this solely on Donald Trump and all the pedophilia and his protection of this cabal and the cover up should be pinned on Donald Trump. But we're going through now our fourth administration, maybe our fifth, who were fully aware of all of this, as we are clearly watching with this dump, which is apparently there, if I'm not mistaken, the 3.5 million pales in comparison to what's out there. Like we're still only getting, 2% of what's available, and according to my latest understanding of what has been kept back from the American people, what has been redacted, which is 950,000 times that Donald Trump's name was put in. He's mentioned in this fucking thing more than a million times. I go back to that all the time with great certainty that when your name is mentioned a million times for a 40-year period, where there's smoke, there's probably fucking pedophilic fire, right? Like I go back to that all the fucking
Yeah.
time.
Well,
And where a guy like Howard Lutnick is concerned, Ellie, that evaporates. His excuse evaporates. Like the excuse we see for everybody that's attached to this is like, I knew him, but I didn't do business with him. But all of that stuff came after his conviction date, right?
yeah, if you came after his conviction date, you knew what he did. Like he wasn't a secret person that you had to like go look on watchdog.com to figure out like everybody knew this about him. He was proud of it. The people who hung out with him thought it was funny. They joked about pedophile parties with Woody Allen. Like that was just like it wasn't a big deal to them. They thought that it was overblown. He thought that his first criminal conviction was way too harsh and blah, 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 blah. But one thing that I find really interesting, because before all this happened, before Trump ran for president, I was working as a transcriber on the Weinstein case. I was helping them with their book, and I just listened to all the interviews, and then I was working on like the Me Too stuff. So all the people who are involved with Me Too, and eventually like Christine Blasey Ford and all these people, I was listening to their interviews. And so I was listening to all this stuff and all these accusations off the record of accusers who were not on the record of Donald Trump and things that he had done. So they didn't actually put their name anywhere. They didn't announce their story anywhere. And I'm listening to all this like it was at a very big actress's house. She had a long table and she had a giant round table discussion with all these survivors of people from Trump, of people from Weinstein, of people from everything. I had heard so many people's stories back then, and I never heard Jeffrey Epstein's name one time. He was completely missed by the Me Too movement. And that is how much money and power gets you in this world is nobody touched him during that entire thing. And he should have been wiped off the map. Like that should have been, there's a lot of points where that should have been it for him. Like 2008 should have been it for him. But like nobody even mentioned his name in 2016. We never heard it.
Such a great point, and secrecy is the important aspect here. And he took great pleasure and spent a lot of money making sure that Google couldn't find him, TikTok, you couldn't find him, Twitter, you couldn't find him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's now a publicly available story, which we'll get into at another time. But I also want to talk about Zorro Ranch. That's 7,600 to 8,000 acres that he bought for a song that he literally has an underground labyrinth. We're now finding out that has been bought by a guy named Don Huffines, who is, a very dear friend of the Trump regime, a massive donor to Trump and Netanyahu, and his son now works for Donald Trump in the Oval Office, which I find fucking fascinating.
You know what he sent out today? You want to know what MAGA people are talking about today?
Yeah,
I got this from my MAGA family member. But my dad wants me to clarify that I'm not talking about him when I say my MAGA family member.
I know, there's a great post today where you're like, this is my dad. He wants everybody to know he's not MAGA.
It's also his birthday, so happy birthday to my dad.
Oh, happy birthday, Mr.
You're
Leonard.
not MAGA.
Produced a beauty. There you go.
Thank you. But I got a document today that says Huffins, like, he is so generous. He wants to turn Zorro Ranch into a Christian retreat, where all the money that is raised at this Christian retreat goes to help sex abuse victims. And I was like, nice. OAN Network, you bitch. So like, I was like, I want to see when that paperwork was filed. I want to know if it was filed this week, because I can guarantee you he didn't care about a Christian ranch to raise money for sex abuse victims before we started yelling at him. He is trying to save his rear end because we didn't know who he was. He bought that, like all these bigwigs do. He bought that ranch under the guise of an LLC. He created the business bought the ranch, and nobody could figure out who owned it until they renamed the roads around the ranch. And in so doing, they changed the taxes and they had to out who the owner was. And then we all found out who he was. We all found out where his son worked. And all of a sudden, he's turning it into a retreat. I cry bullshit. Like, I know that is not true. I would love to see the documentation behind that, but you know what? All of a sudden,
and if I'm not mistaken, this was in 2023, and since then we have had several requests for cadaver dogs to visit the actual location of Zorro Ranch, several requests for LiDAR, and the state of New Mexico to go and investigate the hills around Zorro Ranch that are in this 8,000 acre compound. And if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I'm not. By the way, I never speak unless I'm right. It's a curse. I'm not. If I'm not mistaken, that Don and his son cooked up what looks to be a pretty incredible deal to prevent anybody from looking into the dirt around Zorro Ranch and all 8,000 acres, which has its own town, its own airstrip, which has been hidden from public purview for a couple of decades, if I'm not mistaken, Zeb. And if I'm not mistaken, the state of New Mexico has just greenlit a $3 million project to go in and tell Don to go fuck himself so they can go and look for some of these alleged victims, who may be buried in and around Zorro Ranch, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Or prove us wrong. But just go in there and figure it out. Oh no, you're
can't hear you, Zev. Can't hear you. We lost your audio, buddy, and I wish we didn't. Go out and come back in. Oh no, gotcha. Go ahead.
There's $2 million investigation for sure, but at this point, it's been so long. Are they going to find anything? Are they going to find just
not in the house?
Chances are, if there were bodies buried there, they've long been moved or excavated. But who knows? It has to happen. There's no reason for it not. It is ridiculous that it hasn't happened yet. It's ridiculous that there was the allegations of these so long ago.
Think about this. The second Epstein gets popped, they raid and search his house in Palm Beach. They raid and search his fucking house in New York. They don't fucking touch Zorro Ranch.
And there's emails that say, let's not worry about that one, because guess who was also in that house hanging out? Well, it was the governor of New Mexico.
He did. Bill Richardson had a lot of opportunities to go down there, and we could use that ranch whenever he wanted. But it's also the place where they had all the weirdest scientific experiments. where Epstein was described as being darker than anywhere else, where one of his victims describes a horrific kind of scene where she just doesn't even know. She can't remember where she slept at all during her time there. She felt like she was so drugged up. And there's one scene she wakes up and Epstein's conducting some sort of experiment on her. Now, I don't know what experiment he was doing, but like a medical experiment. He's acting like a doctor of some sort. And she saw hazmat suits, people in hazmat suits. The place has been described to me as being so full of rattlesnakes that if people um, dare to leave the actual houses themselves, there's such fear they're going to get attacked by rattlesnakes. So it's a in the middle of nowhere. You remember those pictures I showed you, Dean? There, this is about as isolated as you can be, and in New Mexico, right at the edge of a cliff.
One young lady escape?
Yeah, she took it in the journal. There's one girl who her friend came and picked her up in the middle of the night, and she put everything in a trash bag and ran.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it is possible to have gotten away because
but so difficult. If you look at the topography that you laid out for us in that podcast, or if you go and do a Google Images search, in a couple of FiveStacks ago, Zev laid that all out for us. As difficult as it is to understand where this is, it is so secluded, and they own so much land around this compound, and there are so many fucking electrified fences around this compound. There are 4 different layers of electrified fences. So, out from the actual compound, there's one, then there's another one, then there's another one, then there's another one. What the fuck? You're not keeping people out. You're keeping people in at that point.
Absolutely. And they're flying people in right from the Eastern Europe. And that's the thinking, at least. And it's unclear whether they landed in the landing strip that was on site there, or whether they landed in nearby. What's the nearest town there? I can't remember. But
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe, yeah. But either way, there were people coming in from overseas, young women who were picked up. And we don't know the allegation against the 2 of the dead bodies or buried bodies there are of Eastern European women, and some of the victims who were there at different times describe, they had these Eastern European women show up, but they didn't really connect with them because they were hard to talk to. So they were really kind of anonymized sexual targets for whoever was there, and then getting rid of them if one of them, died, or if the sex got rough. I don't know. Who knows what happened?
Well, that's one of the allegations, that the sex
Yeah.
got rough. The other allegation that I have seen recently is that, if you look at topographical photographs, is that Mr. Huffins, or Huffines, however you want to say his name, the mega donor that owns Zorro Ranch and bought it for half the price, which is fucking crazy, has been excavating the land already, almost as if he's preparing or trying to hide something. Have you guys been hearing the same thing, seeing the same visuals?
No.
I've seen the visuals of the of that target area. This is one circular area that's it looks like a garden.
Yeah, it's weird. It's ceremonial almost.
Yeah, to me it looks like it is ceremonial, like some sort of sacrificial place, if you ask me. And I don't believe any of those either, but it does look like that. And they have and that place has been dug up. Now I'm not sure whether it was dug up now or why or how. But if it was,
I was going to say, if you bring in cadaver dogs, which I did call, I called a nonprofit down there I emailed them just to see what it takes to get a cadaver. I was like, it costs a lot. Can a private citizen do it?
Cadaver dogs. Can I just get one?
Why are you laughing? And I'm like, I don't know. But it takes a lot to get rid of the smell of a body. So if you dig up around a body, because of the way it decomposes into the dirt, it's very hard to dig away that smell. And dogs are so sensitive to it, they can find it from a mile away. They are so sensitive to that smell. So it would be very hard, even if he was excavating, to totally get rid of the scent of a body.
Interesting.
And yet someone's saying on the chat here, it's not rough sex, it's violent. It's just violent rape. And in fact, that's exactly what it is in each of those cases. I don't mean to be diminishing it at all. It is what you're saying. It's interesting that there was also this order of acid, apparently, that Jeffrey Epstein put in, and no one knows why he would need that order of acid.
Oh, yeah.
Which everyone's questioning around whether that was involved in any sort of cleanup. But we're far away from saying that there was murder committed here. There are allegations made in the FBI files of people dying in sex parties involving Donald Trump's golf course in California.
Mhm.
These were parties that were with Epstein and Ghislaine that organized that. The circumstances that the girls were buried in kind of in Zorro Ranch. I mean, we have that incredibly interesting uh, evidence from someone who worked there, calling the FBI, saying they have details of where they were buried. They have audio recordings of various sorts where Madam G is quoted, and then there's also videos of people involving underage girls or young girls. Which we have not seen. I've not seen in any of the evidence currently provided that there is any video of famous people or any people with underage girls. Now, I've not seen all of them. There's probably a lot that I
Yeah.
haven't seen. But from what I've seen, I've not yet seen any of those. And I'm sure that surfaced fairly quickly if they were there. I did see Ben Affleck at swimming in a pool at Jeffrey Epstein's place.
Interesting.
That was a surprise for me. But I haven't seen anything that would be, we're looking at any
I get Ben
sort of.
Affleck, but if you see Matt Damon, we're in trouble. These pictures. Sorry, Allie, you were going to
Matt
say something. Go ahead.
Damon. No, sorry, I keep thinking. Do you remember that movie where they had the doll and all he did was say Matt Damon over and over again? What was that?
Yeah.
Like, anyway.
Yeah,
No,
that was
I
a good
was
movie.
just gonna say Matt Damon. I was just gonna say that so I do know that Ehud Barak went to the ranch. I don't know if Leon Black went to the ranch, but those were probably the two most violent guys out of the group so far that I've, seem to have an MO of not just
Bill Clinton
like
as well, rumored to have gone
interesting. Okay.
to Zorro Ranch.
Oh, okay, but not rumored to be violent though, right? I don't think I
Not
read
rumored to
that,
be
but
violent, but
okay.
rumored to be at Zorro
A
Ranch. And
visitor,
didn't you send me an email, Ellie? So many of them pay pass
probably.
back and forth. About Glenn. I don't know if you're willing to talk about that and if it's ready for conversation,
Yeah,
but
you can tell me.
I think didn't you send me to me this morning
I
about
think I did.
Glenn saying to
Oh
Jeffrey
yeah.
that
Oh yeah.
if Virginia or somebody, I think it might be referring to
Yeah, it
Virginia,
was today.
does not mention Ehud Barak or let me see if I
Yeah,
can
say that
find
they
it.
did, or actively say that they did not. Yeah, here we
Go to
go. It
Zorro,
goes.
yeah,
Yeah, it might
Him and
help. And I
Clinton,
don't know if
right?
they're
Yeah.
talking about. I don't know if they're talking about her saying it. Like I think it's to discredit her. So there's another she, which could be a girlfriend or assistant. They said it might help if she can say Ehud and Clinton were never at the island. So it's
right.
like to discredit Virginia, but and we don't have any evidence yet that Clinton was on the island, but my guess is it's coming. I just don't think that
This is
that
on
doesn't
Zorro,
exist.
right? Or is this this is at the
This
island?
that
Let me
was
just
for the island, but
okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
no, it's okay.
You should be
But
sorry.
but Ehud
trying to keep these
Barak
facts
is
straight. There's so
like
many.
he's like he is one of the more violent, probably most violent of the offenders in this long list of men. Um, but also Leon Black. Leon Black has an MO for violence and biting. Um, but the idea, in Virginia's book, she describes Barack without naming him, but we've all come to terms with the fact that yes, it is him. Thanks to Dershowitz unsealing of her deposition, we know that it's him.
Oh yeah,
Um,
where Dershowitz is like, just tell her that she saw someone that looked like me, but it wasn't
ugh,
really
we're gonna
me.
get that guy. We're gonna cancel that
I
guy. Anyway,
know. But
so
Dershowitz has been
but
able to skate so far. Let's get after him
yeah,
next.
he's
Sorry,
on the list.
continue.
So, but the when she describes the way that Ehud Barak would choke her, she'd pass out, she'd come to, he'd do it again, and it was like this game that he wanted her to fear him, but he also enjoyed seeing her pass out. If you think about him being on Zorro Ranch and then bringing in these girls from Eastern Europe who have really no identification as far as American standards are concerned, like they don't have social security numbers, they don't have driver's license, they're very hard to trace. Epstein is not necessarily flying them through customs either. Like he had a lot of leniency with getting people in and out of the country privately.
Yeah, we talked about this with Lev last week.
He knew border
Ellie,
control people. Like he did things that we are not able to do. And so if you think of those girls who are just really not traceable and probably their parents are not in a lot of communication with them, because they're just like, go have the American dream, be a model, be better than we were.
Yeah.
For them to disappear with something like that, like being choked and something went too far and they didn't wake up, you would never know what happened to them. Nobody would be looking for them. So it's not unfathomable that something like that could have happened on the biggest property that nobody is looking at, that everybody is told to look away from.
Yeah,
But
and we've
we don't
and
know.
we've had
But
so
that's the
many good
point. Like, just search.
we've had so many good well documented evidence around the violence from Virginia and others there, that it seems to be the place where people felt either because of the isolation or otherwise just felt it was a place they could get away with a lot more.
Yeah.
This is an email. I don't know if you can
This
see it.
Zorro Ranch seems like it is where the worst of the worst
Right.
has been committed, and I mean, I say that with all due respect. Every victim
Yeah.
who's been attacked, who's been raped, who's been traded, who's been bought and sold by every single member of this cabal. Which when we get down to it, and I think that everybody that's watching, everybody's listening. We got a couple thousand people here that are hanging on the words of some people like Zev and Ellie who have put 20, 30, 40,000 hours into, trying to decode what's going on here. And what's going
They've
on
done a
here is
lot
that,
more than I have.
yeah, well, I'm sure it's been 10
I
years.
can't even count the hours. It's been a long time.
I know, but like, we're not having this conversation in a flippant way. None of this is conspiratorial.
Yeah.
All of it is backed up by facts and emails. And I go back
Well,
to this all the time because, sorry, Ellie,
no. I just my brain's going.
No, please. I keep that brainy thought because I need it. But I go back to the ratio, the mathematic ratio of impossibility here. That Donald Trump and every single one of these people that is mentioned over a 40-year period could not have had anything to do with any wrongdoing,
Oh no.
or could not have been part and parcel to seeing that wrongdoing. And it is virtually impossible to have 1 million attestations to Donald Trump's disgusting fucking
It's every third
lifestyle.
document, right? You think of it, every third document.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, Ellie. You wanted to say something before I
No, I was
rudely
just gonna
interrupted
say
you.
no, I interrupted you, and then no, it's good. I was just gonna say 2 million is such a lame amount to put into this investigation when they're putting billions of dollars into ICE.
Yeah.
$2 million is just so stupid. I'm glad they have it, but come on. And hey, we've got all these billionaires who are trying to clear their name. How about let's do some donations to the Zorro Ranch investigation? Is anybody stepping up? No, they're not. But then
No,
also
they're not. It's a very good point.
if we're gonna do that, let's investigate Ohio. Nobody has talked about investigating
New Albany.
Ohio and New Albany, Leslie Wexner's compound. No one's ever looked at that place.
They're spending $1 billion on getting rid of Massey, on the campaign to get rid of Massey. I think it's $1 billion or something.
Yeah, but $2 million to do a 30-year-old investigation with 1,000 victims.
Tells you everything.
It's fine.
And just to add on to what you're talking about there, though, I think the thing that people have to remember, the crimes, as horrific as they are, the sex crimes are horrific. They really are. And they are the thing that has got all the attention for the right reasons, that deserves all the attention. But behind all this is a vast foreign criminal network that is really about stealing money, stealing not just a little bit of money, not a few $1 million, not a few $1 billion, but trillions of dollars out of the U.S. economy over an extended period of time. And it's bigger than any of us could have imagined. And I think what we're finding out in the Epstein files is that people like Lutnick were very, very much involved in that theft, and that all the things we suspected around liquid funding, which I'd been reporting about, according to this one FBI reporter, are true. And that is why I don't know what reason Wexner gave for not being deposed. Is right? He wasn't actually deposed. He gave a letter of some sort.
He did a letter, and then I think there was a deposition with it.
Was he? Yeah,
so
he was supposed
shady.
to. That's today, right? Like he was
supposed to be today, but I was told he gave over a letter, and basically, as I predicted he was going to do, he's going to say, "I'm too old, too sick to do this.
I'm too sick.
Can't fly
to
New York, to Washington. Here's what I know." I mean, I can't imagine he's going to tell us anything surprising in what that is, but it's incredibly revealing to me that Wexner is doing that now, having promised to be deposed, as all these Lutnick allegations are coming out, as all the truth is.
You know what's fucking incredible too about that, Zev, just to bolster your point, is that every single one of these fucking pricks relies on some last minute excuse not to be accountable, right? Like Les Wexner,
Mhm.
They moved the fucking hearing from Washington, D.C. to Ohio because he was sick. Not only did they afford him that opportunity to be able to fucking give a deposition about being a fucking co-conspirator in a 40-year-long child sex trafficking ring, they accommodated him. Then he sends him a letter and he goes, I'm too sick to get down to the courthouse. I'm too sick to get down to that room in my fucking hometown, 12 minutes away from where I live. And I read that story today. And I was fucking broken because of it, because there are so many fucking people that are trying to get to the bottom of this for victims. There are so many people and so many citizens. Like 90% of America wants to know what the fuck happened. And the American government, the Donald Trump government, the Trump regime is like, yeah, no, yeah, whatever. And the judicial system is set up in such a way where Leslie Wexner can send a last minute email going, I've got, bunions. I can't make it.
Yeah. He's an old guy, but he has
Who
never
gives
been.
a fuck
I know.
if
He's
he's an
never
old
once been
guy?
answered any questions about all
Yeah.
of this. And it started off this conversation with Howard Lutnick getting a $10 mansion from Wexner and Epstein.
Kind of the
through
guy
these
you want to
various
fucking talk to right now.
Yeah, I mean that's him. He knows things. He knows things. There's no ways he doesn't know things. You don't give away mansions for $10 to anybody unless
Although
you're getting
going
something
back
in
to what we
return.
said earlier, what do what did they have to do to get that $10 mansion? Because I might do it too.
Yeah.
Well, launder a lot of Russian money is the answer to one of those questions through Cantor Fitzgerald for sure. That was one of the deal
Well,
points.
and they were connected with he have an office for Fergie upstairs above him in the building, and then
Right. I want to hear about the
she
Fergie
was
emails. I know
doing
you've been looking into them.
she had a charity she was getting money for her charity with Ghislaine Maxwell, and he was facilitating that, and they had the office upstairs, and he was working very closely with the royal family, and I was just like, everything here is so shady. I think that the whole royal family thing is shady because they don't give people up. They don't do that in the royal family. Their unsaid moniker, whatever you will, is never complain, never explain, right? When somebody has a sex scandal, when somebody does something controversial, they say nothing. That is the royal family standard.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're like, oh, take him, or taking away his royal title, I was like, no. They're covering up for something else. There's something else that's bigger than that they were willing to give him up. And I haven't seen it yet, but I just was like, that's not normal that they would ever do that in a million years.
Well, you're hitting on a very big issue there because, the royal family is also involved in the Epstein world. They're involved in the Lutnick world, as you're pointing out now. They posted Donald Trump in many ways. There's a thing here in this actual deposition, the studio 2, they talk about Fergie. If I can find it. Yeah, I said Lutnick gave Sarah Ferguson an office space above Cantor Fitzgerald in New York for the Children in Crisis CIC charity. Ghislaine Maxwell and Ferguson would attend Dolce Vita parties, which raised money for the CIC and the Stowe School, STOW school. CIC no longer exists. The whistleblower advised he has never interacted with Lutnick. He had contact with Sean Lennox. This goes on, but through the whistleblowers. But interesting that they mentioned both Fergie and Ghislaine in that one paragraph there, and the Stowe School. I believe there's a lot of charity work that was being done there. Well, the money just disappeared. So, and these Dolce Vita parties were these big charity events. People came in, donated a lot of money, and then the money never actually went to the kids or in the other charity.
Lutnick, yeah. It's Cantor Fitzgerald fundraisers that all went to
These
him.
are different. These are Dolce Vita fundraisers.
But that was the thing, is they had lots of fundraisers. They had what was it?
Yeah.
Epstein was working for the Florida Science Foundation when he was supposed to be in jail.
Keep going. I just got to get a thing.
There was no money from the Florida Science Foundation going anywhere. There was no science happening. When you think of Terramar, which was Ghislaine Maxwell's, fundraiser charity event, raising no money for oceans. She didn't have an office. She didn't have money being raised. They built lots of charities that never actually, if they made money, didn't go anywhere, and was nothing.
Lots of fabulous parties, everyone giving away fabulous amounts of money, but the money never actually reaching anybody. It's all part of the same laundering schemes. I mean, I know Dean wanted to see this, but I'm going to show it just to you because I don't want him cribbing my stuff here. Just joking. This is this is the wrong one. Why is this the wrong one? This should be. Let me see here. That is is where the chart is right now, and it's grown a fair bit. And
I love it.
And this is all I love about it is that it does it itself. Like it figures out for itself where to place everybody and everything. So at the top here, there's a top 10 list of people involved with the nodes. It changes all the time, but it will tell you that Epstein is number one, Trump is number two in terms of the number of nodes. And you can press them, and it'll take you into
Shocker.
this is Donald Trump's universe over here. And then what's interesting to me is that, you got Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, and then Lutnick. Currently, I mean, things change all the time in this thing. Lutnick is number 5 on the list of people who have got the most connections in this node map, which is really a map of connections. So each person's connections with each other, if they exist, are noted and then ranked. And then they related to each other and which ones they come closest to. And you get these nodes, right? So you get like a Donald Trump node, you get a Jeffrey Epstein node, and here is Howard Lutnick, and it's still growing, this Lutnick mode, but Alain was calling it the Russian mafia because I don't have any names that directly involved with him, but he's this reputed interactions with the Russian mafia is quite evident in all these 302s. And then you got all these other companies which were basically.
I just want to know which one of these people killed Lady Diana.
Well, wasn't Adnan Khashoggi
right?
The uncle of Dodi Al-Fayed?
Oh, look, there's Michael Cohen.
There's Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen. He's really interesting.
Cohen.
Because he really is very connected. Everyone, he's coming after us. Why are we picking on poor Michael Cohen? Well, it's not just we're picking on Michael Cohen. He is a very connected player in all of this. And let me see if I can I created a special Cohen network here. But when we pull out, he's connected to Felix Sater. He's connected to Victor Vexelberg. He's connected to Katie Johnson in the investigation. He's connected to Jeffrey Epstein. He's connected to who else is here? This is going to Roy Cohen. He's connected to Jared Kushner and to Howard Lutnick for many years. This is not some accidental person that stumbled into trouble and then landed up coming clean on the president. He knows everybody in this circle. These are not distant people from Donald Trump's connections to Russia. These are close individuals. So I don't know. If you think that's us coming after someone who's innocent, I don't know. I don't think that's the case at all.
No,
anything else in here? Is there any other names?
It just goes to the spider web of different people that are involved and who's central to the organization. And this diagram that you put together in the graph that connects people in terms of these nodes, it goes with how many mentions, not just how many mentions, but there are different variables that are in this graph, I'm sure. And I don't want to get into AI and how you qualify prompts, but these are people that are not just mentioned; they're mentioned in a specific capacity.
A lot of this is the greatest heist.
It's
my own research from the greatest heist. So it's not even stuff that's in the Epstein files. It's stuff that I've actually way too long been covering this stuff and found these nodes and then made the connections myself. Plus we've layered on top of it the Epstein file stuff. So, but most of this is just it actually explains greatest heist because so many people have a hard time
understanding
understanding it's such a complex scheme.
Well, it goes back 40 years. And I think that's kind of the beautiful part of what you've created, right? Is, for people like Ellie, who's 27.
Yeah. Lucky you.
She looks like she's 27. She will never not look 27, by the way. Just wanted to point that out. Can't hear you, Ellie.
It's the hoodies. If we wore hoodies, we'd look like 27 too.
You're on mute. Can't hear you.
Sorry.
But yeah. So if you can get your audio, because I would love to continually. Yeah. Can't hear you, Ellie.
I think you can hear me. No, you can't.
No, I can't hear. I can hear you, but I can't hear Ellie.
Oh, Ellie.
And it's really important when I'm carving her for looking 20 years younger than she looks, because she'll always look 20 years younger than she looks. But you and I are from a different generation, right? Where
we are.
You would hear these stories about these cabals of super rich people, and yeah, you can get into the Pizzagate shit and, joke around about that. But like, a very rich group of people. And if you've ever seen one of my favorite comedies of all time, So I Married an Axe Murderer with Michael Myers, where he talks about this group of people called the Pentaveret.
Yeah.
Secret underground society, well-known underground society. It features the Rothschilds, the Gettys, and they're capable of tremendously terrible things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I go back to this all the time that it exists. And we just looked at the fucking roadmap of what that looks like. And these are the worst fucking people in the world. And to everybody's greater point, this is a transnational group of fucking international criminals that have taken over the United States government now have access to the military, to the treasury, all the things that they ever wanted and all the things they ever hated about the United States of America. And these include Americans like Howard Lutnick, who felt constricted by the fucking rules and regulations when it came to banking, when it came to treating employees like they were employees and building a great business and not enriching himself. People like Donald Trump, who declared bankruptcy 6 fucking times and still is managing to pass himself off as the greatest entrepreneur in the history of the United States. It is entirely unfucking true, and everything has been underwritten when it comes to everybody in the Trump regime by the Russian government. And I hope that everybody understands that to this point. I hope that everybody gets it. And here's the other thing. I hope that everybody understands the depravity of the United States of America. This is not just Donald Trump and the GOP and MAGA getting involved in this. There are several fucking thought leaders and people that, Democrats on the other side of this equation would go, oh my God, I hope it's not Bill Clinton. I hope it's not Bill Gates or anybody named Bill who's a lefty. It's literally everybody. And that was the intention behind this. And that is the fucking alarm bell, these fucking military alarm bells that Zev Shalev's been ringing for a decade. Ellie Leonard's been ringing for the last year and a half, and that life's work. Yes, of course, it has something to do with protecting young girls and women and children. Of course, it does. That's the impetus for me. That's the impetus for everybody here. But it is so much deeper than that. And the fucking centrifuge for this perversion, this theft of the fucking American dream comes from Donald Trump and 36 cabinet members in the oligarchy that surround him. And I think that's really important for everybody to fucking take away from them today, with them.
I think it's so true. Ellie, by the way, has to go and feed her kids before something she's got to do. So she's going to say goodbye.
Just give them an iPad and some gravel.
But everyone should check out, if you haven't already, Ellie Leonard's The Panicked Writer, because it's phenomenal stuff. She's doing so much work, and it's
she's my favorite.
So valuable.
Ellie's my favorite person.
She's my favorite too.
And I love you, but she's my favorite person. And I get these cute exchanges. We send texts back and forth during the day, and this woman sent me this beautiful human being sent me a $25 Starbucks gift certificate for my birthday.
Oh my gosh!
That is didn't too even. She is the sweet, and she doesn't want. Yeah, you're like me.
Talk about it.
Anytime, and you're quiet now because you can't talk. So we're gonna sing your praises. Ellie is as authentic and wonderful as she is out there as she is in here. She's wonderful. She hates.
Yeah, she really is.
I have to go.
She has to go. She has to go. It's fine. You can go do your things. We'll still keep talking about you. So Ellie Leonard,
still keep singing your praises, Al.
Yeah. Real rock star on Substack. It's just astonishing how well she's doing.
Do you know how she got there?
I know
she never
story.
Gave up. She never gave up.
I know the story. And Nick Paro was one of the big supporters of her and really helped grow her profile and got her to know a lot of people. It's a lot of good people on Substack. It's changing a little bit. I think it gets bigger. It becomes a little less like your friendly neighborhood, but it's still got parts of that are still very much like that.
Well, she got there by merit, right? And I think that's really
sure.
important to note about Substack.
She's also a very experienced writer. People, she might underplay this, but she's got she's a very studied writer and a good writer. More importantly, she writes really well. But all her transcription work has been done for some very impressive people who don't just hire anybody to do the transcription work. I mean, it's a high level of quality that they're looking for and understanding. And she's dealt with people that are very complicated and interesting to deal with. So she's not. This is not a newbie. but she's new
No,
in this way, but into
no,
the
but
journalism
like
piece.
we were talking about it prior to actually going on, and I'll shed some light. Ellie will probably not, and I'll be very judicious about it. But for people like us, like Ellie, like me, to a lesser extent, like you, that have been in this weird hinterland of the www dot for a long time, to show up to Substack and to find an audience and a group of people who value, not just the work that you do, but not only do you value it, you've changed our lives. You know, I go back to this all the time. If it were not for this beautiful community of people, I don't know where I'd be. And I still, to a lesser extent, operate as if that I am still in that space in my life, which is really important to communicate to people that are just starting out on Substack, or don't think that they have a voice. Is that someone like Ellie, up until July, of this year, had a couple of thousand followers. She's got 500,000 followers now because she doggedly searched for the truth and authenticity. People like Zev Shalev, who were put in this
That's
like,
nowhere near 500,000 followers.
no, no, but dude, like, you've experienced this incredible renaissance because you doggedly search for the truth and you show it to people. And you say, you can take what you want from this, but better angels and better people would dictate that this is bad, hurting young girls, hurting women, standing on your business. The fact that people like you and Ellie have experienced the kind of success that you have here, specifically recently, um, it goes to the analytics, but it goes more importantly to trust, right? Who do you trust in this world? And that is the greatest, honor that I have, other than being able to have a captive audience of people that will listen to us try to explain things to them in a way that matters to the betterment of humanity. And you can assure yourself that you have good people that are in it for the right reasons now. Everybody that follows us, doesn't matter who you are. We are here for the betterment of the people who've been abused. We're here to give our privilege to those who truly need it. And that is the incredible honor of being able to be in people's lives every day. So if you could hit that Chiron, and if you could subscribe, whether you're paid or not, doesn't matter to us. What matters is that you share this content. You understand the truth, that we get behind that veil and that Wizard of Oz, green fucking drape that sits between us and the Trump regime. That's destroying your lives. That's destroying America, destroying Canada's greatest partner. So God bless people like you, even though I don't believe in God at all. It doesn't exist, but that's another story and a whole other podcast. Thank God for people like Zev. Thank God for people like Ellie. Make sure you hit that Chiron at the top, give them both a follow, and do your very best to make sure that you show them your support with some kind of financial, commitment. And I say that knowing I fucking hate asking people for money. In no way are we asking, but the more you support this, the more the people get a chance to see it, and the more we get a chance to make this our full-time job. So if you appreciate this, thank you. Really appreciate you being
And I
here.
do think people, there's a lot of people who spend a lot of money on these paid subscriptions, and we really appreciate that.
Mm.
It's not lightly taken. It's why we get up, extra early every day. It's why we stay up extra late at
It's
night.
the
It's why
ultimate
we,
compliment, right? When
yeah,
someone willingly gives you their money so that you can be in their lives to inform them.
it's a lot of money, and we appreciate it. I appreciate it so much because I don't think this work would be doable without that support, and that's why I'm so heartened by it and thankful and grateful to everybody who supports us and who supports you too. I know you feel the same way. You've got, we all have to live. We all have to build businesses and run businesses. There's all sorts of threats that come around these kind of topics. You got to, there's things you got to live with when you into this world, and it's not inexpensive, and it requires a lot of very, very generous people who really care about the work that we're doing and really care about America, really care about democracy, and really care about justice, not only for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and the network, but the truth coming out, which I think is, for me, I'm just going to keep saying the truth of what really went on with this network, the criminal
Mm.
enterprise upon criminal enterprises, the theft, the billions and trillions of dollars that were taken out of your bank accounts, America, taken by people who live in other parts of the world through these schemes that these people in this network, architected, that is going to blow people away as that keeps coming out. But the scale of it, we're estimating $80 trillion of money that would have been security for you and your family, your kids, your grandkids, generations to come, could have changed the entire world because
Annual
of
GDP for 2
yeah,
years, by the
yeah.
way, for
I
the
mean, it's
entire United
massive.
States of America. Yeah.
And these guys have stolen it. And if you're looking for a culprit, you got to look at the Russian mafia. I mean, you got the Russian mafia sitting in the White House right now. And I haven't used that term before, but the minute you connect the Howard Lutnick dots to the incredible amount of Russian money laundering, and you realize that that man who's in charge of the Commerce Department, who's right next to Donald Trump, number 3 in whatever it is in the hierarchy there,
You can
is
include
is
Witkoff in that too.
yeah, and Witkoff, and these are mobsters. These are not just connected to Russia. They're Russian mobsters,
Yep.
and they're running the country. God help us
And they've been
all. So,
operating in plain view in the United States for a long time. Like a Russian mobster was the star of a hit, American television show called The Apprentice.
mhm.
And his entire reputation was literally taken from being bailed out by the same people that turned him into the president of the United States. So very important for everybody to recognize today.
Yeah. But everyone should be following deanblundell.substack.com as well for the incredible coverage you've been doing about Canada. It's extraordinary, the voice and the light you're putting on this topic, and what's going on in Alberta. But I think you're one of the clearest voices. Um, Really showing how Canada's realigning, Carney's, sophisticated handling of what is a very, very complicated situation, the decoupling from America that is happening right now, what that means to Americans, what it means to Canadians, what it means to the world, is you get very little coverage of that anywhere else except at deanblundell.substack.com. He's pushing for an Epstein inquiry in Canada as well. That's so important, and he's exposing everything that's going on with the Albertan independence movement. This
Oh, the
is
separatist movement, the
separate.
douchebag movement. I just call it the
Yeah,
hillbilly douchebag movement. It won't work. But to your point, it's the greatest privilege of my lifetime to stand with Better America for Canada. And I know you feel that the same way. I know you internalize that. You can say you don't, Zev. I know you do. I know you love America,
I
but
love
we're here to
Canada. I
put
love
America
America,
way
and
in
I
front of
and
everything.
I especially love democracy and freedom.
Yeah.
And those two things used to mean the same thing for both countries. They don't anymore. So
No.
yeah, but
Anyway, dude, appreciate you being here today. Thanks so much. And
sorry I
don't
was
forget,
late again.
everybody, listen, this is as always brought to you by our friends over at Ground News. Go to groundnews.com. Make sure you get that 40% off today. Groundnews.com / it's that one that goes like this. If you see
Okay,
my
maybe it's the
hand,
other way.
goes like
Well,
that.
it depends on
No,
which way you
I think
look.
it's like that's the forward. For
But
me, it's
maybe for you it's
forward.
forward, but for me it's backwards. So for
It's
me,
forward, groundnews.com
forward
/ FiveStack, / FiveStack. You get
forward slash.
40% off. We get all of our news from Ground News. I've been a Ground News client for a couple of years now, prior to them actually coming on board and wanting to be part of what we do. And what an honor. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like, I mean, there's a legitimacy when a company like Ground News comes to you and goes, hey, we want to talk about the same news you talk about because we feel like you do a great job making sure that people don't pay attention to blind spots, understand bias, and we just deliver the news. And here's the kicker, it's a little Canadian company that's servicing the world and giving people an option to be a Sherpa through their news journey. And so if you can go to groundnews.com / FiveStack, you get 40% off your entire subscription. I've been a fan. I don't even get that discount because I'm already locked in. Don't care. I'm just grateful to give you all
I know
our
people. I
friends.
think I can get you a free account there.
Oh, no, I don't want to pay. No, dude. I'm one of those guys that wants to pay. I have to. But anyway,
They're
groundnews.com /
amazing.
FiveStack, 40% off. Yeah, they are amazing.
They're a great
to your
group of
point.
people. They really are, and the product's
Yeah, they
great,
really
and
are.
they really mean what they're about. They really have the company with enormous integrity. So,
Mhm.
yeah, everyone should check them out. And that 40% deal is pretty good. And you only FiveStack followers and subscribers get that. So check it out at groundnews.com / FiveStack. Are you coming at 7:00? We're going to do another show at 7. We're doing an
Yeah, what
Epstein
are we,
panel.
like an hour 45? We got Lev. Yeah, I'm in. I'm
Come
home
on
tonight.
over. We're going to talk all about the latest in the Epstein files, and hopefully I'll be able to drop some of these new tapes and something new I've discovered about Peter Thiel. I got that Peter Thiel email I was telling you about
Oh,
yesterday.
I
Plus,
fucking hate Peter Thiel. Let's go give it to him this
so
afternoon and this
join us at
evening at 7
7.
o'clock. And listen, I want to thank Castronicus, and I want to thank every single person that's in the chat, Jenny Benjamin, every single one of you, and every single person that's been here today. I take your time as the greatest asset in the world. So thank you for giving us your time on behalf of Zeb and myself. We'll see you at 7 o'clock right here. Narrative.org, deanblundell.substack.com, Lever members. We'll see you in about an hour and a half.
Ellie will be there. Kate will be there. It'll be fun. Raj, maybe.
Oh, I get to meet Kate Justice. All right.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. See you at 7.
Okay, pal. Bye.
Just bye.